I want to close with a story. This is one of my favorite stories. Years ago, a Christian author and speaker, Tony Campolo, was invited to speak at a conference in Honolulu in Hawaii. And he flew into Hawaii, and because he's from the East Coast, his internal clock was all kinds of mixed up at that point. And so he's wide awake in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., and he doesn't know what he's going to do with his time, so he decides, I'm just going to go out and try to find some place to have breakfast. And so he goes out into the streets, and he finds this little Greasy Spoon diner restaurant, and he walks in, and there's this kind of big, gruff guy with the cigar running this greasy diner. And he's like, hey, so what do you want? And he said, I'll take a donut and a black coffee. So Tony's sitting there all by himself in the middle of this diner at 3 o'clock in the middle of Honolulu, when all of a sudden 9 prostitutes walk in from the streets and plop in the booth right next to him. And you could hear them talking about their night, and you could hear them cussing and smoking cigarettes. And Tony's like a little bit uncomfortable at this point. He's like, I'm just going to like exit stage left here. I'm going to finish my coffee. I'm going to head out. But he overhears this conversation, and one of the ladies says, tomorrow's my birthday. I turn 39 tomorrow. And all the ladies look at her, and they say, shh. And their reaction is kind of like to make fun of her. Oh, what do you want? You want a birthday party? You want us to throw you a birthday party tomorrow? You want a present? What do you want for your birthday? You want us to bake you a cake or something? What do you want? And she says, hey, listen, I've never had a birthday party my whole life. I never had a birthday cake my whole life. I don't think I'm going to start at age 39. I didn't expect anything from you. Why do you guys have to give me such a hard time? And right in that moment, Tony Campolo decided something. He waits for those 9 ladies to leave, and he goes back up to the diner manager and says, hey, so those ladies, do they come? They come every night? Oh, yeah, every night. Show up the same time, 3 a.m., right here. That lady that was sitting right next to me in the booth next to me, is she here every night? You talking about Agnes? Oh, yeah. Agnes, she shows up here. She's been here for years. She comes every single night, same time. Agnes, he says, I have this crazy idea. I don't know what you think about this, but tomorrow's like actually Agnes's birthday party. What would you think if like right here in the diner, we had a little birthday party, surprise party for Agnes tomorrow? I know it's kind of crazy. What do you think about that? And the guy looks at him kind of confused, and then big smile comes up on his face, and he says, that's great. I love it. And his wife's in the back and says, hey, honey, this guy wants to throw a birthday party for Agnes. And she comes out and she gets all excited about it. And she says, you know what, you might not know this, but Agnes is really one of the good ones. She cares for all the people around her. She loves all the people around her. You might not realize that based on her profession. So they come up with a plan. Tony's going to take care of all the decorations. He's going to make sure the place is all set up and ready to go for the party. And then this guy, his name was Harry, who ran the diner. He's like, I'll bake Agnes a cake. And he says, we'll see you the next day. And so the next day they get there, and the whole place is ready to go. They've got all the decorations up on the wall. They make a big sign that says, happy birthday, Agnes. There's a big cake with all of the candles. And to make it even better, Harry has invited everyone else to come and be a part of the party. And this room is wall to wall with prostitutes. And Tony's like, feeling a little uncomfortable. And right at 3 a.m., Agnes walks in with her friend, and everyone all together says, happy birthday, Agnes! And her jaw dropped. She almost fell over. She was so confused and shocked and flabbergasted. She couldn't even understand how this was possible. Who would have thought to do this? She walks into the room, and they get out the birthday cake, and they light the candles, and everyone in the room begins to sing, happy birthday, dear Agnes. And as they do that, tears begin to run down her face, and she even begins to weep and sob in that moment. And they say, blow out the candles, Agnes. And she's so overcome with emotion that she can't even muster what it would take to blow out the candles. And so Harry blows the candles out for her. And then Harry says, Agnes, cut the cake. And Agnes says, can I just look at it for a second before we cut it? Never had a birthday cake before. And she said, if I know this is crazy, but can I show this birthday cake to my mom? She's just right down the street. I'm going to just take it and I'll be right back. And Agnes, they say, well, it's your cake, whatever. And then so she takes the cake and she runs out the door with the cake to show her mom. And everyone kind of looks there like a little awkward, kind of an awkward moment. And they're looking at Tony, who came up with this whole idea. And they're like, what do we do now? And Tony's kind of thinks, he says, well, what if we all just pray? And so he leads this whole room filled with prostitutes, and they all bow their heads. And Tony prays that Agnes would see that she has a seat at the table, and that she is loved by the king, and that she is his daughter, a co-heir. And she says amen. And right at that moment, Harry comes up afterwards and says, hey, Tony, you didn't tell me you were a pastor or something. What was that prayer thing about? We didn't talk about that. What kind of church are you a part of anyway? And Tony said, with just the right words at just the right moment, he looked at him and he said, the kind of church that throws birthday parties for prostitutes at 3 a.m. And the man, Harry, looked at Tony and said, no, you're not. There's not. That church doesn't exist. If a church like that existed, I would join it. Wouldn't we all? Wouldn't we all? And that's exactly the kind of church that Jesus has come to start. To start the kind of church where we would go out into the streets and into the alleyways and the towns and the country roads to share the good news of Jesus Christ. That we would go out and we would bring joy to people who have no joy. That we would go out and we would bring celebration and have reason to celebrate with people who feel like there's no reason in their hearts or in their lives to celebrate. That we would bring light where there's darkness. That we would go and we would say, there's a party, there's a celebration happening, and you are invited. In fact, you have a seat at the table with your name on it.